what's going on? Justin back here from Modern Mixing. So, don't boost and sweep. Ooh, very controversial topic. I know there's a lot of engineers that swear by this technique, and they wholeheartedly disagree with me. Great. This is a good thing. This is why the internet is such a great place, because lots of ideas can be presented, and there really is no right or wrong, but obviously this is, my beliefs and, what I've learned over time, and I found that this works the best. And a lot of people say that you shouldn't discount anything in the mixing process, but this is actually one thing that I have done for a long time as far as the boosting and sweeping, and just over time, and once I learned the technique, I actually came to the conclusion that this works so much better that, I just basically stopped boosting and sweeping. It's just as simple as that. So I first came across this technique in Michael Stavrous' book, Mixing with Your Mind. And there's definitely a lot of other stuff in there that's useful, because the book is mainly about psychology and mixing, and it definitely focuses on that side of the mixing. And yeah, I think that's the reason why I like the book, because it's not so like, here's a bunch of techniques, just go crazy. It was more like, here's the reason behind it, here's the psychology behind it, this is what you should be thinking, all that stuff. So I'm gonna kind of demonstrate it for you, and hopefully you can learn something from it. If you want to try it, incorporate it in your mixes, see if you like it, and if not, if you still want to swoop and boost and sweep and all that stuff, whatever, go crazy. That's your call. But I'll show you kind of how I would approach it. Now, the way I'm going to show it to you right now, it's kind of like by the book. Like, if you've never done it before, this is kind of how I would start doing it. I kind of do it slightly differently now. Whereas if, like, usually I can pinpoint the area pretty quickly, and then I'll do minor sweeps. So I'm basically cutting and sweeping, but it's not over a huge range. It's over a tight range, usually no more than like 100 hertz, range. But as you get lower, it's even tighter. So this is how I would start it off if I was just learning this first. I would kind of, like, for instance, I'll play this. This is just the guitar and the vocal. And I've already done this mix, so if you want, go check out the video, how to mix an acoustic song. I'll post the link. I have already EQ'd it and everything, and there is a resonance peak frequency in here that I'm gonna catch or whatever, but I used a dynamic equalizer. So if you want to learn about that stuff, just go watch that video. That will kind of explain it. But so, for instance, this had a resonant frequency, so I was trying to figure out where it was. So I'll play it for you. And this is the guitar. I'm focusing on the guitar as far as cutting and with the EQ. So you'll hear the vocal, you hear some other stuff going on, but just focus on the guitar. That's kind of what I'm going to be working on.
Episode of my 15 self divided by my.
So there's a little bit of resonance that I wanted to get rid of, but also there's a little bit of boxy honkiness. So I'll also work on that too. So to find the resonance with this EQ, it's actually kind of cool, because I can pull down kind of my my band here, and then I can just double click it to turn it on, and double click it to turn it off, and then I can move it. So what I would do is I would, I'm hearing it anywhere from, say, like 150 to, say, 300 hertz. That's kind of where I'm hearing it in. So I would take my first guess. So say, like, let's say 120 or 130 hertz, and we'll see if that makes a difference. So let's play it, and then we'll turn it on.
Episode of my 15 self divided by my hand divine.
Okay, so it got rid of something, but kind of got rid of a lot of the meat of the guitar that I didn't like, so it didn't really tackle that frequency like I wanted it to. So I'll move it up now. So let's try around 300, 350. Let's see what happens.
Episode of my 15 self divided by my.
And still not quite right. Still that weird resonant frequency going on. So let's try to bring it down a little bit and see what happens around that 200 area.
Episode of my 15 self divided by my hand divine across my arm. Of course you're right.
All right, so that makes a lot more sense to me. It sounds like if you're focusing on the mix, the guitar and the vocal and how they interact together, once I pull down in this area around 200, it kind of just opens up the guitar, so it makes it a lot brighter now. It's not so boomy. Now the vocals kind of have room to live and breathe and do what they want to do. So, I'm kind of happy with that. Once I kind of figure out where, I figured this is kind of the area, then I would fine tune it. I'd make the band a little bit smaller here and narrower and kind of like, sweep around a little bit, see if I can get it to be a little bit more accurate. But for the most part, you don't even have to go that low. If you don't think the frequency is that, that much of a problem, you can, do your cuts like this and then move it down and try there. That doesn't work, try it out. So you're constantly A-Bing it. You're constantly hearing, okay, this is what it sounds like with it on, and then boom, off again. So now you're back to hearing where that problem frequency is right away. So you can quickly A-B before and after, and then once you feel like you have the frequency and you A-B back and forth to the EQ on, the EQ off, then you can kind of get a better judgment of where that resonant peak was, or even if it's just mud or if it's some boxiness or something like that. So it just gives you a really quick reference, and you're hearing with everything together. So instead of boosting, like it would be something like this. I'll show you.
Episode of my 15 self-divided by my hand divine across my arm. Of course you're right again. Today will be the last day I've decided.
So you can hear if you're trying to boost and sweep and all that stuff, and if you're not really too sure about the frequency spectrum itself, you could hear that how there's so many different frequencies that can be considered resonances or peaks or not pleasing to the ear, but then once you cut them out, it's not quite the right frequency. So this is just an alternative. This is what I do. I do this, pretty much every time in a mix if I'm looking for frequencies I don't like, even if it's not as a dramatic. Like, let's just say this was a vocal sound and there was just a little bit of mud around the 500 area. It sounded like a 500, but I didn't want to do a crazy cut or anything like that. I might start with like 4 or 5 dBs and maybe use a broader Q, and then kind of go up and down, and then find that once I feel like I've figured out I have it, then you can kind of, bring it down slowly and kind of play around that area a little bit. So it doesn't always have to be something so drastic like that. This was just because it was a resonance. I knew it was a resonance, so I wanted to take it out. Anyways, to keep this video short, I'm not going to do the boxy areas. That was explained in my how to mix an acoustic song video, so go check that out. Also Twitter at Modern Mixing, Facebook.com/Modern Mixing. And yeah, till next video, thanks.